You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Today's show is sponsored by Dr. Jacalyn. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacalyn.com to book an appointment today.
Good afternoon and welcome to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn live on Business Talk Radio, Facebook, and YouTube. I am your host and executive producer. I am a certified life and career coach. My name is Dr. Jacalyn, and with me is my co-host, partner, producer, friend, and just about everything that you can think of. Mr. Cini.
I am what they call in the DSM-5 a borderline personality. It's so much fun to be here, and it's so great to see you. And we have, I'm telling you, a guest with so much energy, I don't think it will fit into the studio.
I can't wait to bring her out.
Very exciting. I know, Dr. Jacalyn, that you're a coach, and coaches come in different styles and flavors and kinds. My favorite kind of coach is a coach who really wants to help somebody become a better version of themselves.
Yes.
That's a rare coach. I mean, most coaches are more about making you happy with your current state than about moving you to a new state. It's harder to challenge people.
That's true.
But when you've got a target to coach from, when you've got a direction to move somebody in, it becomes much easier. And that is what Lisa Manyoky is going to be sharing with us today. She's got a system for that.
Lisa Manyoky, I cannot wait. I wish we didn't have to wait till commercial, but we have to, build the suspense, right?
We do. We got to build the tension, and we have to talk a little bit about coaching. One of the things I know about you, Dr. Jacalyn, is that while you're a very easy to talk to, very approachable, very friendly person, if you're working with somebody, you really do have the kind of edge it takes to move them from where they are to where they need to be.
Yes.
And you don't want to waste their time, and you don't want them wasting yours. This is really about making that change that will make you better. And, I think you'll really be impressed when you hear about Lisa's solution. She's got this thing that she's done called presence intelligence that I've known about for a while. And I've taken the assessment in a couple of different forms, and it assesses you in terms of 9 kinds of aspirations, dreams you might have for yourself, and helps you prioritize the kinds of changes you can make in your life based on that. So as a coach, I think you'll appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. I did go to her website. It was very impressive. Lots of great information there, lots of thought-provoking things that I think are actually very essential in coaching and moving someone from one point to another. So Al, how did you meet Lisa?
Lisa is, let's see. I met Lisa through Mark Iorio, who we interviewed on the program a couple of months ago. We worked for a while on brand and culture alignment together. While she was working on presence intelligence, she also helped us with that. She is an excellent, excellent proofreader. She'll spot, and believe me, she knows the difference between a hyphen and an EM dash, and she will point it out to you and tell you where one works and the other one doesn't. And that's very valuable. And on top of that, she has she'll probably mention this. She went to school for design. Graphic design, and she is an artist. I mean, really, the kind of artist that just understands what something needs to look like in order to be effective. And she was really instrumental in putting some of the graphic elements for brand and cultural alignment together for us too. So I've been working with her for about a year, and although she definitely she has what I would call a kind of a little stubborn streak in that. If she knows the right way to do it and you don't appear to be getting it, she'll lose patience with you.
Have you been in that situation where you just weren't getting it?
Once or twice.
You're so modest, Al.
Now we're talking about me behind my back, which is she could probably share some stories with you. But whenever she's had an opinion, the opinion has always been correct. It's always been on the right track, and that's why I think presence intelligence is such a great instrument. It's about actually putting a fine point on who that better version of myself needs to be in order for me to really be a better version of myself. And, I think you need to have a good sense of right and wrong in order to be able to approach your life in a constructive way. And presence intelligence is a great framework for getting to that.
So I'm wondering if that incorporates the right and wrong, that incorporates the Buddhist philosophy that you and I have been talking about that I'm trying to adhere to.
that you're adhering to, that you're doing a much better job of adhering to than I am. I mean, the no lie, no
stealing, no killing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good. I'm good with 2 out of 3 of those, I guess. That's so. But it's not really about being morally correct. More than anything, it's about being practically on target from a practical point of view. Whatever your faith base might be, whatever you might do for a living, there are things you can adjust to make yourself better. And without judging you, without making you feel bad about yourself, without making you feel less than, presence intelligence puts you on a track to really, in a positive way, become more than. And it's going to be fun to talk about it.
And especially during this time now with the pandemic, and I just read that we might be going through this, with the vaccine that they have. By the time everyone gets it, who's going to get it, it's going to be close to the fall or next year. So what a great time to actually look inside and make some changes and make commitment to being the best version of yourself. So I'm excited to hear what she has to say too.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because COVID is going to be with us for a while. It's not like an election all of a sudden declares the end of it. It's not like a vaccine, in fact, all of a sudden declares an end to it. It will go on, probably into a good part of 2021, which means that opportunity to become a better version of yourself by taking on training or by participating in a coaching experience, that's an opportunity that will be with us for a while. It's a great chance to put ourselves in really good shape to recover from all this when it's over. And now that we're coming up on the holidays, presence intelligence might not be a bad gift idea for somebody.
Oh, I love that
might be able to benefit. Plus an awful lot of the coaching that you do also, Dr. Jacalyn. I think people out there who are listening and watching may have a friend who could use a little bit of a hand up.
I think you bring up a good point. I think everyone actually can benefit from coaching if you're open to it. That's what I always say to my clients. Are you willing to make a change? Are you committed to making that change? And if they're not, then of course it's not going to work. But the work that you're doing with BCAT, with us as individuals, I think we want to put this year behind us, but the opportunity to continue growing and learning is still there. But as an organization, somebody wants to put 2020 behind them and really ring in 2021. And what a great opportunity to bring brand and cultural alignment toolkit to those organizations.
I appreciate you bringing that up. I mean, there are an awful lot of companies that are planning whatever 2020's version of a Christmas party is going to be, or a year-end party. I think whatever it is we do this year, it has to be more meaningful. It has to be less fluffy. It has to be more focused on purpose. And what we do is actually fun. But in the middle of all that fun, we actually do discover who we are when we're doing collectively our best work on our best day. So it's coaching to make our company a better version of itself rather than just the individuals within it.
And, one thing that I've realized, Al, is I've had a number of people reach out to me to say that regardless of what your political party is, people were celebrating last week, and they're celebrating because the election's over, allegedly. And people are showing much more kindness, I've found, and gratitude. So if this continues, this would be a great way to incorporate it into being a better version of yourself, right? Being kind to yourself, being kind to other people, living with gratitude.
I think you're right. I think if people get in the habit of being grateful for what they have, whatever it is you might be celebrating today, whether it's that the election's over or that your candidate won or whatever it is, if you can just keep that celebration going, even when the news changes, because we won't always have good news. There will be contention. There will be argument. There will be differences of opinion. But if you can keep that positive track, and remember, it's more important to learn how to play your game than it is for you to hop on board somebody else playing their game. So, I mean, that really is what frustrates me more than anything about an election like the one we've just been through, is that people love and hate people they don't even know. And that wasting that energy, that emotional energy on people that you've never even met and who are running their own game, and you have nothing really to do with that. If you could take all that energy and focus it on what you want to accomplish in your own life, nothing is impossible for you.
That's true. We have to look inside. And one thing to what you just said is there will always be some sort of pain. What we want to avoid is suffering. So when we work with coaches, regardless of whoever it is you're coaching, we learn how to overcome pain. We learn how to accept it, walk through it, and move on. And I think that that's this is such a great time to actually realize there will always be pain, but how do you show up? How do you deal with it? And what type of character do you have? And what I find is when someone is open to really looking at themselves and being true to who they are and realizing, yes, I have a lot of attributes that are great in these areas, but there's some things over here that I'd like to kind of focus on. And why not work with a coach to help bring out the best version of you, whether it's business or individuals?
You know, on the other side of this first break, you are going to love talking with Lisa about Presence Intelligence.
I'm really excited. And the fact that you mentioned that, I was just going to say we have to take a break right now. So let us wait no longer so we can bring Lisa out. Stay tuned to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn with my co-host and partner, Cini, and we are bringing Lisa Manyoky out right after this break.
Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Graves Jr. I'm the host of the Ralph Graves Jr. Show, and I want to invite you to pick up my book, Unstoppable. I wrote a book called Unstoppable. It's 7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue and achieve success. The one thing that my 20 years of law enforcement has taught me is that no matter who you are, we are all governed by universal laws, like gravity. But in this book, we're going to talk about laws like the law of forgiveness, laws like the law of control, the law of intelligent practice, the law of expectancy. I was able to see how those, no matter what their background was, those who identified and treated these laws with respect, they were able to go on and lead successful lives. So pick up this book, and you can go ahead and pick it up at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, RalphGravesJr.com, where anywhere where fine books are sold. Thank you.
There are 7.7 billion people on Earth today. 40% of these people are under the age of 25. Young adults are the most fertile mission field in the world today. In Scripture, we see Jesus pouring his life into 12 young adults who he equipped to change the world and all of history. Like Jesus, we believe that the best approach to reach the world with the gospel is to invest in young, emerging leaders and equip them to build disciple-making movements. Concentric is the notion of surrounding and sharing a common center. Our center is the model and strategy of Jesus for both leadership development and ministry formation. As a global alliance, we provide equipping in biblical leadership based on Jesus' example in the New Testament. Jesus modeled for us how to make disciples that reproduce. Focusing on leadership development is key to creating movements that spread the gospel and Jesus' disciple-making strategy to young leaders around the globe. Our Ministry Alliance partners are actively equipping leaders and building movements of multiplication that reproduce the life of Christ. Join us today to equip young leaders with Jesus' strategy that will change cities and nations.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAT partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAT partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
Academy Sedan and Limo is a full-service transportation company serving the Philadelphia metropolitan area with full knowledge of the New York City, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. areas. We pride ourselves on being the most dependable, conscientious company in the industry. Our always on-time service and dependable pricing make us the company to call for any event or occasion. Our vehicles can accommodate any size party for any occasion. Our vehicles range from four-door sedans to SUVs to minivans to limo buses to full-size tour buses and can accommodate groups of 2 to 100. We offer airport shuttle service or over-the-road service without limitation regarding mileage or time, and no drive is too long or too far. So if you find yourself in need of transportation of any type, with any vehicle. Give us a call at 610-842-4564 and let us show you what a real transportation company can do for you.
Use code ACADEMY2020 to receive 20% off your first 3 rides, including parking and tolls.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Well, we're back. Here we are on Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, live on Business Talk Radio, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. And we have a guest with us, Mr. Cini. Why don't you introduce our guest?
Lisa Manyoky is a one and only person who's been a coach for a long time. All right, now settle down, Lisa. It's not that exciting. She's absolutely special. She knows what she's doing. She's been a coach for a long time. And with Presence Intelligence, she's taken all that experience as a coach and kind of put a fine point to it. And I've taken the assessment, the inventory. Don't want to call it an assessment because it's very non-judgmental. Isn't that right, Lisa?
That's right. Right.
Yeah,
an assessment makes you feel like there's a right or wrong, but this is an inventory.
It's very comfortable, series of questions, very simple, very obvious, straightforward questions that allow you to chart your own course through a coaching experience. I think I have that right because that's how it felt to me.
Yeah.
So what is it, Lisa? How would you define presence intelligence?
We all have a package. I mean, we're all born with a set of skills and talents and abilities, and some of us fall into circumstances that make it easy to realize them. Others, maybe we're born into a family who doesn't support us, or we take a job that doesn't use the best of us, and we get derailed. So presence intelligence is a way to take a step back and look at all the special sauce that makes you who you are, because there's only one of you. Nobody else can be you, and nobody can make choices for you that really suit you if they can't be identified. So it's a way to take a look inside, really, and find out what makes you who you are, and then optimize it so that life and business are as good as they can be.
So, Lisa, it sounds like you took an inventory of Mr. Cini. So, and you still decided to show up today.
Did you call me stubborn? I just may have to.
She does have a stubborn, resolute. Let's say resolute. Let's say resolute. Wow. Is that better? Resolute. This is a woman who knows where she's going and believes everybody else should figure out where they're going, and that's what. I think that's one of the things that presence intelligence does. It's challenging in the sense that it makes you decide what you need to change. It makes you think about actually 9 different things about yourself that you can change. So maybe, Lisa, you can talk about those 9 things that your inventory focuses.
Well, there's your appearance, there's speaking, there's writing, your interactions with others, the people in your life, your finances, your health, and your character. So a hybrid of all of them contribute to how you shape how you're perceived. And strengths in one area can override deficits in another. However, sometimes your weaknesses can be so glaring and so destructive that they override the good stuff. So it's important to take a look at what you can optimize to kind of run the show, but what you can repair and maybe even rebuild or at least improve so that they're not weighing you down.
Lisa, who are your typical clients you work with?
Well, the reality is this is good for everybody, especially though, here are the people who have most benefited. Number one, kids just getting out of college. They are lost. Some of them have had degrees in, law and medicine and want to cut grass and plant flowers. So a person who's trying to figure out where they fit in can take a look at this and say, okay, what I wanted to pursue when I started college was great, but it's not really where my heart is or where my talents will best be utilized. Secondly, solopreneurs, their business is built around them as individuals. They have to have a lot of skill sets that are optimized all at one time. And there's a lot of pressure that comes with that. So they need to know how they are perceived by others, including their clients. They bring their business into their homes often, so there needs to be balance there. And also people in transition. Like right now, you mentioned COVID. There are a lot of people right now who do not have the job they had 6 months ago. So they're saying, well, do I really want to return to that? in fact, it doesn't matter because it's not available, or even if it is available, I really don't want to do that any longer. But what do I really want to do? What's suited to me? What's the best use of my talents and abilities? What'll make me happiest? So this is a really good time for people in transition to reevaluate where they stand and where they want to go.
I love that. That's so important because, as we know as coaches, that if there's ever been a time when you could revamp yourself or pivot, change your career, now is it. So it sounds like presence intelligence is a great tool for people to do that.
It is.
It is. For a lot of people, COVID is a pitfall, but it really could be, if they think about it, it could be a turning point, Lisa. And I think that's where presence intelligence comes in.
Oh, well, even for me in the very beginning of the year, I had a huge amount of work that came to a screeching halt. So I could have either melted, with fear, but I took a great opportunity to say, okay, let me step up the pace of this, because for me, this has been in background for a while. I mean, Al, I've been spending the last 12+ years raising 3 kids on my own. So I knew that my bandwidth for business development had to be really intact in order for me to gain momentum. And when I finally had my last kid in college, I said, okay, now's the time. So I jumped on this, and so far picking up lots of fast momentum. It's also really relevant at this time.
Absolutely. I'm interested as to what you both think about this, but I was thinking before the show, so many people have gone through different things this year, and I have too. My life is completely different than it was in March. But yet I feel like this is probably one of the best years of my life because I am really happy. I'm not happy about a pandemic, but I'm actually happy. And I'm wondering how you feel, Lisa, and how you feel, Al.
Well, I can tell you that when the pandemic hit, first of all, I had so much change in this last year that it was overwhelming. I mean, my mom, she had COVID. She didn't die from COVID, but she passed away from secondary complications. She'd been in a nursing home. Her roommate passed away. My father-in-law passed away. There was so much loss in the mix, but one thing I knew about myself is that I am built for resilience. Had I not been present intelligence, meaning really aware of where my strengths were, I couldn't have drawn on them to cope with a lot of change at once and to really make the best of what seemed like for many a really bad situation. So now, when people have this time, there's some real downsides that come with it, especially for some industries. However, it's also an opportunity to purge maybe the baggage that doesn't belong, or the things that are albatross, and to clear some space for good stuff and better stuff that's more suited to making you better at who you are and happier, because happier is so important.
Totally agree. What about you, Mr. Cini?
Well, in listening to Lisa talk and watching her, by the way, on StreamYard today, the way our program is produced, I've had an awful lot of Zoom calls with Lisa, and she isn't always in that setting wearing those clothes. But wait, no. This is I'm telling you where it's going. What's good about this whole experience is she's actually demonstrating one of the aspects of presence intelligence, which is know your audience, factor your audience into what you do, and keep in mind that the impact that you have on the world is everything about you. The way you look, the way you dress, the way you talk, everything about you has an impact. And that impact reverberates and comes back and affects you too. And what I was thinking about when you asked about COVID, COVID really is a great opportunity for people to reevaluate the way they approach their lives. So that's clients for people who might be looking for coaching. But there are coaches out there that are looking for a new tool to move them in a more clear direction working with their coaching clients. And I think all those opportunities kind of coalesced in what we normally would call a really bad year that might actually turn out in retrospect to be a pretty good year looking back on it.
Definitely. I'll tell you right now, see, when I was raising my kids alone, so we're talking 3 kids who are now 21, 23, and 25.
Wow.
That was pretty grueling. I mean, there were always a lot of balls in the air, and life was really busy. So to run a business and to raise kids was a big bite. But with presence intelligence, I knew how to keep order in my household. I knew how to run a business. but I built community by getting certified. I think I have 6 different coaching disciplines, certifications, not because I felt like I needed one more credential, but because it was a way to build community. What I know about coaches is that the premise of coaching is that the client gets to dictate the agenda. But sometimes the client doesn't know what the agenda is or doesn't know where to start. And it can really make the process kind of it's a bit of a struggle. So by having this immediate right out of the gate tool, it enables a coach to say, okay, let's start here. And it lays out a roadmap of what's a priority we need to address, because your presence, your personal presence, as in what you put out there to the world in terms of visual information or behavioral or even that energy vibe that people can't see, is all relevant to how you move through the world and how others see you. So this is a great tool that a coach can start to administer in the beginning of an engagement, and then actually lengthen the engagement, because they're going to come across a number of areas of life where maybe they're not a specialist, then they need to bring in a collaborator. But there's only one person who can answer these questions, and that's the person who is filling out the inventory. So if they don't like the answers, they have nobody to argue with but themselves.
Right? Talk about the... I'm sorry. Go ahead, Doctor.
I was going to say, so with these 9 different areas of focus, what have you found in terms of people's what their perspective is on how they're coming across to others and what the data actually shows?
Well, I conducted this a survey, and it's funny. I mean, I asked them to prioritize what they thought were the main contributors to a positive presence. And believe it or not, many people will reflexively think it's their attire, that's how they dress and how they look. But the top answer was how your interactions with others. So how you behave and treat others can override weaknesses in appearance or the shape of your nose or whatever, your posture. Not to say that they're not relevant, but in terms of degree, how you interact with others. I mean, you've heard that quote, and people won't remember what you said, but they'll remember how you feel. There's great merit to that, and the results of this survey actually point to that.
That's, I was, with respect to the survey itself, for people out there who haven't taken it, and that's most people because it's brand new. How long does it take to take it? What's the experience like?
What, the inventory?
The inventory, yeah.
10, 15 minutes.
That's what
The
it took me.
questions they're not difficult. There are 11 questions in 9 categories. And at the end of it, you'll get a plot that shows you where you're strong, where you have some need for improvement. And if you've had a significant reputation hiccup, then it'll show you that you need to either rebuild or repair. It doesn't say you're good, bad, or indifferent. It just shows you where you can focus your attention to optimize who you are and where you're best,
Well, and that gets a conversation started about where I ought to start. Where do we begin in the coaching process? Yeah. What do we need to work on first? What do we need to work on the hardest, maybe? And I think that the magic of presence intelligence is it prioritizes the plan and really helps tremendously in the coaching planning process, which for a client is a solid goal. Now, all of a sudden, I know where we're heading, and that just makes me feel more comfortable. So,
and it might uncover some things that you're not aware of. You might see some spots that, I need to take a better look at that and make some improvements.
I kind of remember finding maybe 5 or 6 of those, and I appreciated the opportunity. No, I found it really helpful, and but again, it wasn't daunting or scary or judgmental. It's just it's a great learning experience, a terrific opportunity to take a look inside and see what's actually there, and then start turning the little knobs that make you a better person. I think it's very cool that way. And I know you talk to a lot of coaches. We may be coming up on a break, and I don't want to work through the break, but I'm very anxious to hear how the coaches you've talked to have reacted to the instrument and how they feel about it.
Okay.
And we are about to take a break, so thank you for that. We have the opportunity for our listeners and viewers to call in with questions for Lisa. The number is 631-730-5468. So we'd love to hear from you. We're going to take a break and stay tuned. We'll be right back. Do we really want to go to a break? I'm kidding. Here we go.
RVN TV is a platform for people of any industry to share their story. Over 285,000 viewers are tuning in to RVN TV shows monthly. We guarantee a great experience that you'll be sharing with everyone you know while increasing your personal and company's brand awareness. But what is your brand? According to Forbes, it's a combination of your logo, your product, your design and feel, and your personality. Did you know that aside from being a guest, we offer even more opportunity to boost your brand? Adding your company logo and website on screen during your interview will allow viewers to recognize your brand instantly. Incorporating images and video clips is another great way to showcase your product during your live segment. Let viewers see how good you really are. And most importantly, there's you and your interview. For less than the cost of a newspaper, direct mail, or a magazine ad, you can leave our studio and within 48 hours have a permanent digital copy of your live segment to link to your social media, embed into your company website, or use in email marketing. Investing in your brand is so very important, and we can't wait to have you as a guest.
Have you just lost your job or have been laid off and you are looking to transition to a new job or career? Maybe you have even tried submitting tons of applications and yet you keep getting turned down for jobs you qualify for. Don't wait until you become overwhelmed with rejections when you can easily transition or get your dream job. Let MJW Careers guide you to the right career path and a better, brighter future. At MJW Careers, we know what hiring managers are looking for, and our goal is to land you the job you deserve. What makes MJW Careers a wonderful provider over other services is our pragmatic and scientific approach to resume writing. There are rules, there are visual cues, there are content best practices. We understand those and work within the boundaries to ensure our clients' messaging appeals to the decision makers. Our career consultants will help you transition into new roles quickly and effectively. With our experience in virtually every industry, we will provide direction in the frustrating job market by helping you write a customized, professional resume and prepare you for your interview as well. Join the great number of people we have helped scale up to greater things in their careers. Let us help you on your career journey. Come visit us, www.jobstickers.com, to learn more and grab a free resume review or ebook.
Located at 121 Haddon Avenue in Westmont, New Jersey, is Margie Cedrone, Artisan Jeweler. Margie's been in business for more than 30 years. She works with her clients to create custom pieces of jewelry to reflect their personality and help them make their own bold statement. Starting in the renowned Jewelers Row in Center City, Philadelphia in 1988, Margie works directly with her clients to develop one-of-a-kind pieces such as necklaces, engagement rings, wedding bands, unique watches and tennis bracelets, as well as a myriad of rings and earrings for everyone in your family. She also has worked directly with Dr. Jacalyn over the years, creating unique pieces of jewelry to reflect her personality. She does pearl stringing and repairs on site at 121 Haddon Avenue. Call or text Margie at 215-384-7155. Margie Cedrone Jewelry is open by appointment only. Make your own bold statement.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Today's show is sponsored by Dr. Jacalyn. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacalyn.com to book an appointment today.
Welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. My name is Cini, and Dr. Jacalyn, who are you again? It's not.
I just have to say, I love that tune. Isn't that a catchy tune?
It's just a catchy song. It kind of gets me all worked up, and then it's a terrific segue into a guest like Lisa Manyoky, who's just fabulous, and she's developed this thing called Presence Intelligence, which is a really terrific tool that I think coaches will love. And before the break, we talked a little bit, Lisa, about how coaches might be reacting to it. So maybe you can characterize that for us.
I think relief is probably one of the best responses I've had. First of all, there are a lot of coaches in the marketplace, and coaching is not formally regulated, as in like plumbing or being an electrician. You don't have to get a license. So anybody can take a quick coaching course and put their shingle out and say, I'm a coach. The reality is coaching is not easy. I mean, to do it well, some people are simply built for it, but it is a skill that is best honed over time. So to sell services, especially if you're a new coach where you have no reputation, it can be really difficult to start a business. Now I've run a business for 30 years on my own prior to turning my attention toward coaching. So I knew what it was like to generate clientele and keep up with revenue and whatnot. A new coach who gets a certification is a coach, but not necessarily a business professional. To have a thing, an entity to start with, such as an inventory, and even as a companion to other tools like a DISC assessment or Myers-Briggs, it's just a great way and an easier way to get some traction fast, to say, look, let's start here. Plus, they build trust really quickly because remember, the person who's answering the questions is the person, their client. So there's no right, wrong, indifferent. It's information provided by the client, and it helps them pinpoint problems more efficiently and accurately, which is, I mean, what better than to start off an engagement with accuracy, credibility, and trust?
It's while you were describing it that way, I was thinking if a doctor, if a coach were like a doctor, then presence intelligence is kind of like the intake form. Before we get started, here's where we start. And, it's a standard approach to dealing with people that helps them prioritize exactly the kind of work they need done to become that better version of themselves that they know they want to be. And I don't know, I found it very instructive, very enlightening when I took it. I feel like I learned a lot about myself, and it only took about 10 minutes. It's very easy to do, and the results that come back are very simple to read, simple to understand, and very enlightening. So good work.
And what was really important to me is that at the end of it, nobody was pigeonholed to be like, you're not a turtle or an elephant. There are some assessments that they typecast you or they pigeonhole you into a description. And, I'm trained to DISC, so I'm certified there. A DISC assessment lets you know your communication style. But frankly, and Myers-Briggs as well, I've taken it on a different day and have come up with a different result. So by 1 point over in one category, I'm not an elephant anymore. I'm a dove. And I didn't want anybody at the end of this to say, well, that's kind of like me, but not really. This is highly specific and highly individual and on point. Because again, there's no result other than who you are, and you get to see it.
No, there's tremendous power in that. Dr. Jacalyn, this is something you could probably use in your work.
Yes, I was definitely thinking that I need to reach out to you about this. And I'm wondering, Lisa, for other coaches who are out there who are interested in incorporating presence intelligence, what does that process look like for a coach to work with you?
Well, for right now, because this is newly released to the marketplace, there's you'll get a link to actually take the inventory or administer to a client. And then you get an hour with me to debrief it. So it's not currently available as an independent tool like any other assessment that's been established in the marketplace. Right now, there's still some learning for me in terms of what's the best way to incorporate this into a practice. So again, it's the inventory and then an hour with me. That's it.
I think that sounds fantastic because you are the founder of this. So I would love to have that opportunity to have the coaching with you too.
It's a great way to start a conversation with somebody that you're helping because it creates a kind of a basis for helping them. And that I think is what's missing from a lot of coaching. Dr. Jacalyn and I were talking before the program. We normally think of coaches in the sporting world. But what sports has that business, that life doesn't have, is a ball and rules. And, so when you're coaching somebody to hit a ball or throw a football, that's a clear skill and a concrete outcome. the world that we live in is not as black and white as that. It's much more gray. And what I like about presence intelligence is it starts to surface all the things you really can change, and it separates them from all the noise of the things you really don't want to change or maybe don't need to change.
And it helps you find your fit. A sense of belonging and connection is so important. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I called it the trifecta. I had smarts, arts, and athletics. So I was good in all of them. I didn't really fit in one place, but I do remember that before I found athletics, I was regarded as the brain, and I hated it. Now, my mom would say, "Oh, you'll appreciate it later," but I wanted to be popular and fit in right then. So when I found athletics, and I remember going to gym class and scored goal after goal in soccer, other kids were like, "Is that her? Who is she?" But that feeling of accomplishment and being revered for a contribution was like fuel in my tank. And it was really the tipping point toward growth. So everybody fits in somewhere, but we don't always get dropped into where we do. And sometimes in order to get where we want to go, it comes with loss. We might need to make changes or draw boundaries with people who are either not right for us or just people we don't like. And then to migrate from that change, it's much more efficient and easier to do with the companionship of a coach.
Wow, it's powerful, and it's there. I can think of so many applications for a solution like this, just because life is so gray, and because sometimes we just need a path through all that cloud of confusion that we live in. I think presence intelligence is a great way to get somebody started down that path.
And I think also a lot of times, at least what I've experienced, is someone feels like their life is off in a specific area, but yet it's not just that area. There's actually other things that are going on with them that they're not acknowledging. So they have to get through a lot of that before they get to what the real issue is. And it sounds like with presence intelligence, with these 9 areas of focus and this tool will really help expedite that process.
Yeah. I mean, did you ever know anybody who's a really great personality, but who's in a bad marriage? I mean, and then they get divorced and they're a different person. Well, they were the same person all along, but the person in their life, maybe the person who they spent the most time with, was not their champion. And most of them didn't show up while they were married to that individual. So that's what I mean. Sometimes good change for you can come with loss. The people in our lives have great power. And if they're the wrong people, or if they're destructive people, or what for whatever reason don't fit, we have to develop enough courage and confidence in ourselves to say, no, that's not for me. Either you take it or leave it. But I've got to be true to myself, which always feels good deep down. It just can be hard to get there.
That's a great point. One thing I want to share as a direct result of what you said, this thought just popped into my head. So I've worked with coaches over the years because I really believe in it. And today, at this point in my life, something just happened. I'd shared with Al just on Match.com, which is another whole story. But something happened that 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I never would have handled it the same way that I'm handling it now. Because of working with coaches, I've changed who I am, and I've developed boundaries of what I'm going to put up with and what I'm not going to put up with. And as a result of that, I like myself. Whereas for years, I didn't like myself, and people were always telling me that you're not good enough, you're not this enough. Now it's like, bye, see you later.
I'm glad you brought that up, Dr. Jacalyn, because Lisa actually kind of speaks to that. I mean, they're in that transaction where you're meeting somebody of the opposite sex, somebody that you might be able to form a partnership with. There's so much tension kind of buried in the middle of that encounter that a lot of people really just don't know how to deal with it at all. And it's amazing how you can find people even in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who act like 12-year-olds in a situation like that because they just don't have the presence that they need to be able to deal with somebody else authentically that they just met. They always feel like they have to have a mask on, and that mask has to be accepted. And I mean, and it really is kind of bi-directional, because if you decide that the person you're with isn't a good fit for you, you have to be able to deal with creating that boundary that says, this was fun, but I don't think I want to do this again. And they have to be able to graciously accept that and move on. And it's amazing to me how immature people are in some of the most important encounters of their lives. And a lot of those little encounters add up to big outcomes. And, bringing back the presence intelligence, if you know who you are and you know what you're supposed to be doing and you can think your way through something like that, don't just use your lizard brain, use the whole brain to get through that. I think presence intelligence is a great solution even there.
But that's hard to do alone. So, I mean, what Al, I've said to you a few times, when you're in the jar, you can't read your label.
I like that phrase.
I mean, you can't see what's on the other side of the jar. So, to work with a coach or someone who's championing your cause, who's there exclusively for your best interests, is who you want in your life. But it can be hard to get there if you're insulated and surrounded by a lot of noise or information that's not accessible.
No, it's great.
Yeah. We have to take a break, but when we come back, I want to talk about your TV show host at RVN TV and what that looks like, because there's a lot of information there that we want to get out too, right?
Definitely.
We're going to take a quick break, so stay with us. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. I'm the executive producer and host of the Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn programs. My programs are on RVN TV, Business Talk Radio, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. I'm also the morning host of Tuesday Morning Coffee on RVN TV. I'd like to invite you to be a guest on one of my programs, as well as consider sponsorship. Your sponsorship can include a custom-made commercial designed for you by the Dr. Jacalyn team, or you can use one of your own commercials. You have the opportunity to promote your brand, your book, or even a cause that's near and dear to you. You can reach out to me at Jacalyn@drjacalyn.com or through my website, drjacalyn.com. Thank you. I'd love to have you on my team.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, live on Business Talk Radio, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. We are here with Mr. Cini and Lisa Manyoky. Hello, welcome.
Hi.
Al and I've traded places, but that's okay. He can be in the front seat. So.
I can handle it.
So let's talk about RVN TV, Lisa. Tell us how it's going and what you've got, like the #1 morning coffee show there.
Well, they asked me to host a show last year, the producer, Keith Reynolds. But it was, last year was just so congested, and I knew I couldn't do it. But then this year, I guess I got, it was around August, he wrote to me and he said, "Hey, Lise, we have an opening as a co-host on Wednesday mornings." I said, "I'll do it."
Good.
So my co-host is Mark Iorio, who I know, our sons played ice hockey together many, many years ago. And let's just say this, Mark is reformed. Mark used to be this hothead fan that I'd say, go park yourself at the end of the rink behind a net so that if you throw something, nobody will get hurt. He's my good buddy. And his wife is just lovely. So we have such history that there was no learning curve. It was easy to just chit chat and get along, and having a great time.
It's a fun program. I watch it. There are 3 mornings that I set my alarm extra early for. Tuesday mornings is Dr. Jacalyn and Joe Asamendi, which is fun to watch. Lisa and Mark are fun to watch on Wednesdays, 8 to 9 on rvntv.tv, by the way. And I co-host with Joe on Fridays.
And I used to be with you guys on Fridays. I love that. That was a fun show.
One of the ways you got edged into the whole thing, which is great. So, and they're really building quite a, I think, a pretty impressive morning lineup now. I think the programs are pretty good. Definitely good, and the quality of the hosts with YouTube, definitely excellent. So
well,
good
and
work.
I think that's like anything when I mean, you guys obviously get along really well. You know, Mark and I, we were buddies, and we just could get along as if we'd known each other forever. And we've known each other a long time, but there's just a certain chemistry or rapport that's obviously fun-loving and smart and conversational, no stressors. It just flows. He's a good guy.
It's a fun hour, definitely.
It's terrific. So a question I have for you guys, when you think of other teams, male, female, whom you've seen on television or listened to on the radio, who do you like to model yourself after, if anyone? Like, I'll give an example. So, and maybe I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but I really like Howard Stern and Robin. So I like to listen to he pretty much runs that whole show. And I'm not in support of all the tactics that he takes when he goes on the program. But I'm saying he's been interviewing people for years and years and years and years. And I try to pick up pointers from what he does. So, do you guys have anybody that you like to listen to or learn from?
I can't think of anybody, but I will say this about Howard Stern. He is unapologetically Howard Stern.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, he is.
And
and
Robin
that's it.
too. You know, I mean, she's got that wonderful voice, and he's just himself. If he were anything different, people would be disappointed.
That's true. He actually said the other day on the show, he's back in this studio, or if it's his home, I don't know, whichever it is, but that he has to be himself. That's the only person he can be. So he's, 85 million reasons why it's good for him to be himself as he signs his new contract.
That's how that works.
Intelligence at its best, I mean, this guy is self-aware. He knows where his strengths are. He knows where they're not. And he uses his strengths and capitalizes on them in a big way. I mean, how perfect is that? Not my cup of tea, but I appreciate from where he's coming. And
it works for him. And I think that's such a great point, because there's nothing about presence intelligence that would tell him he needs a haircut.
No,
I mean, there's nothing about it. And that's important. It's not like the goal of what you do is to make people look like anybody. The goal of what you do is to make people look like that best version of themselves, whatever that is, which could be patterned after somebody else in their lives, maybe.
Great.
Or at
and
least in part.
Exactly. And the whole premise of it really is that to align who you are on the inside with what you project on the outside. Because if there's a discrepancy between the two, you'll feel it and you'll behave, and it's differently. You'll say things that are different. And other people with whom you're interacting will experience that discrepancy as well. So it's really important that who you are on the inside. Look, if you're a tattoo artist on the inside and you're a wealth planner on the outside, it's very possible that there's like a disconnect. However, if you're a tattooed wealth planner who's comfortable in his or her own skin and you're doing really well, if that's in alignment with who you are, then super. But, I mean, look, it's so funny. I have this tattoo. This is a tattoo. I became aware. It's from Halloween. It's a joke. But you know how many people do the double take of my wrist? It's a hand holding an eyeball. When it was fresh, it looked really authentic. And people would be like, what? What?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting. Lisa, I have a question for you, because Al and I have discussed this before. What about someone who's one way personally, and then they're another way professionally? So in other words, even their tone of voice and their demeanor is very different for business than it is personally. With presence intelligence, would a potential outcome be that maybe you need to be one person that's a combination of both, like you just talked about, the tattoo artist / wealth advisor?
Right. Look, tactical stuff is exhausting. If you are employing tactics, like you believe you have to sustain one persona in your personal life and one in your professional life, one of them is going to at least be wobbly. So you can't be now you can't be who you're not. That said, you can regulate what you choose to share. So if you're typically giddy and vivacious and energetic, I mean, I'm a pretty energetic person, but I know when to calm it down and when to be serious and when to listen. So regulation is different from becoming two different people. That's stressful. There's only one you know. And ideally, you're going to find a profession or a venue or whatever it is you choose to do that enjoys who you are, so it doesn't require tactics. I mean, that's the ideal.
Yes, because I would think it's exhausting to be one person one way and then one another way.
Absolutely.
It would be. I mean, you asked before, Dr. Jacalyn, if we think of teams that are comfortable with each other, and maybe that's kind of instructive to us. I think that the more like you, it's impossible to do this kind of work if you're pretending all the time to be somebody else, because people are terrific at spotting that. And as soon as they do, they lose interest. They don't work with a phony. They just don't. So as soon as you create the impression that you're trying to be somebody you're not, and that you feel that somehow that's going to work for you, you're really putting off an awful lot of the people you're hoping to influence in a positive way. When I used to work at NBC, Brian Williams was talked about as a replacement for Tom Brokaw. And Tom Brokaw's comment was, he's a great guy, great voice, great presence, but he's a storyteller and he likes to tell jokes. And there's no way you can subtract that from him. And sooner or later, that's going to get him in trouble. And it did. Because after a while, he started to tell stories while he was reporting the news. And those stories were fact-checked by people. And when you're a news anchor, that's a mistake you can't make. In fact, that's how he ended up exiled to MSNBC. They needed to do that. So I mean, you're right, Lisa. You can only be tactical for so long, and then it just becomes exhausting. You've got to be in a situation that you're comfortable with, and you've got to understand what that means to you and what you have to do to be comfortable with it. So
yeah, who you are is going to leak out at one point or another.
Yeah, you can only keep up the facade or the charade for so long, right? And then the real you is going to come out.
Yep.
And but better to get that out right away and have people fall in love with it, because that's what, for what we're doing here, that's what attracts an audience, I think.
Yep. To fall in love with who you are because of who you are, not despite who you are.
Not because of something that you're pretending to be. And so you've got to let people know you well enough to be able to feel like they're listening in on a conversation among three people who like each other. And then maybe if I listen in, I'll learn something, which hopefully they are today, because you guys both have so much to offer.
Well, so do you, Mr. Cini. Don't sell yourself short.
Well, I'm not doing that at the
moment. We do have fun on this show. That is for sure.
We do. We do.
As you should.
Definitely.
Lisa, I want to make sure that we have the listeners for Business Talk Radio have the information of how to best get in touch with you. So for our viewers, I have it on the screen, but where can people find you?
You know, the best place, it's so easy to remember, is talkwithcoachlisa.com. And then they can get a link to my calendar and make a plans to call when it's available. That's easy.
That's
Presence
really
intelligence
easy.
For sure. I mean, the website has lots of information about presence intelligence itself. But if you want to reach me, go to talkwithcoachlisa.com.
It's a great URL. Talkwithcoachlisa.com, not just for people who want coaching, but also for coaches that might be interested in learning more about presence intelligence and how they could use it in their practice.
Definitely.
Great.
And there's never been a better time than now. That is for sure. Let's take the rest of this year and then the first 6-8 months of next year, and let's really look at ourselves and areas that we need to maybe look at a little bit differently. Let's reach out to a coach. Let's reach out to Lisa and work with her and her presence intelligence. Is it a system or tool? How would you describe it?
It's a tool. Well, the alignment inventory is a tool, but the concept itself, it's a coaching engagement. It's kind of like akin to emotional intelligence, but bigger.
And just for people who are out there listening on Business Talk Radio, I just want to spell your name and the name of your company. So it's Lisa, Lisa Manyoky, and Presence Intelligence, PRESENCE, Intelligence, INTELLIGENCE. Lisa, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the program.
Total pleasure. No surprise there. And if you had spelled either of those words wrong, Lisa would have been all over you.
I knew there was a lot of pressure on me there. Lisa, any final words you want to leave with our viewers and listeners?
Okay, be all of who you are wherever you go. Always.
I love that.
That's great.
I love that. So, Lisa, if you wait for us backstage, we'll be right there with you in a couple of minutes. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Cini, if people want more information about BCAT, how do they reach out to you?
Al.Cini at getbcat.com. Great way to end 2020. Say goodbye to the lemons of 2020. Great way to turn that into lemonade in 2021. So whether you're planning an end of year event or a beginning of year event, this could be a great way to pull the team together, no matter where they are, all virtually, and get them organized around their purpose.
I love that. People will reach out to you, Mr. Cini, and I'll reach out to you backstage in a couple of seconds. And thank you for being my friend, my partner, and co-host.
It's a total pleasure for me, Dr. Jacalyn. Thanks for inviting me back.
And I just want to thank everyone out there in Business Talk Radio Land who is faithfully listening to us every Wednesday at 2 and every Friday at 5 for our variety show, which is about hope, inspiration, and overcoming adversity. I'd love to have you as a guest on the program. Please just go to my website, drjacalyn.com, and all of my services are there for life coaching, as well as being a guest on Business Talk Radio, as well as RVN TV. Thank you again. We will be back next week. Until then, stay safe and stay on for our closing credits, if you would. We want to thank Chris at Business Talk Radio for always being there to support us. And we'll see you next time.